Firstly, I would like to address a few things. First thing first, I would like to warn you that my internet is not that great today, so anything could happen. Internet could be interrupted at any moment. The staff members need to be very vigilant about it. You need to pay attention and see if and when the internet get interrupted, and you need to deal with that promptly. When you were doing your chantings, I could only hear part of it, or I could only hear the interrupted sound of your chanting. From what I notice, my staff members over here are rather not that anxious. They're smiling, maybe smile of anxiety. I don't know about that. Anyhow, it shouldn't be too big of a problem, but you should be prepared for it. Secondly, we should be able to finish this teaching today, the benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra. Tomorrow is Sunday, and I think Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we won't have classes. And if we do, I will ask the Khenpos and Khenpos to pass down the information. This is an announcement about the time in terms of the content of our next class. Initially, I thought to start our class on the Shrangama Sutra or some of those unfinished classes, but then I thought maybe I should give the teachings on a text that's composed by Shakyamun Rinpoche on the benefits of using prayer wheels. We had not taught or studied this particular text. I believe I finished translating it over 20 years ago. I believe it was back in 2001. But after translation, I had never given a teaching on it. Now that I've gifted and you've bought some prayer wheels this time, the Tibetan Lamas and Jomos, in fact, received those prayer wheels as a gift from me, but a majority of you, in fact, I had to pay for it. But you only pay for about 30% of it. Majority of the fee was covered over here. And for those of you who have not received it or got it, maybe after a few months, we'll see. Anyhow, my plan is to give you the teachings on the benefits of prayer wheels, because this is such an important information to gain, because many of you know how to use it, but you don't really know what are the things that you need to pay attention for. So I think it would be the best for you to know that. Now, we won't have classes for the 2 or 3 days, but after a few days, I will give you further announcements on when and what we're going to study later. Other than that, I don't think I have other further information or further announcements. Another thing that you need to be aware is that our class today is going to be longer. I think it's going to take almost 2 hours. You should be prepared for it. Because I don't want to rush at the very end of the teaching. If I were to do that, then the class won't be a successful class. So for me personally, I would like to take the time and properly give you the teachings. I would like to finish this text, this teaching on this text today. Let's begin our class. Tomba tukje chan la ki shom tsara ne chen ro tse ngi jang kam sa ja hor tu ki shen la ye lar man jime pan zo ja la so ran u gong ji to ban po ro xin ji lo bu shang shen shen wei miao fa bai qian wan ji nan zao yi wo jin jian wei de shu zhe yan jie ru la zhen shi yi为度化一切众生请大家发无上的菩提心啊那么我们现在呢 Let us now begin our class on the benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra. We'll continue from last time. In fact, the Tibetan title is The Benefits on the Vajra Guru Mantra, as well as the explanation of the syllables. But I think in terms of the Chinese translation, I would prefer to use a shorter title, which is The Benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra. In terms of the various explanations and the benefits of each syllables, they're all expounded very clearly in this particular text. We will specifically speak of each of the syllables of the 12 syllables of this mantra, and we will learn about the meaning and the representations of the 12 syllables. The teachings here the teachings that's given here is really clear. When we chant, for example, the Avalokiteshvara mantra or the Vajrasattva mantra, those are of 6 words or 6-syllable mantra, and this Vajra Guru Mantra is of the length of 12 syllables, is twice as long as the Mani Mantra. In the past 2 days, I've received many people's vows in making the aspiration of finish chanting the 100,000 times of the Vajra Guru Mantra. At the beginning of making aspiration, I myself was a little bit doubtful whether I would be able to finish it. But then, when I calculated the dates, today is 20th of August, and within 100 days we can chant 1,000 times a day for 100 days, then before December 26th, which is the Parinirvana anniversary of Pontsö Rinpoche, we should be able to finish it, and we have a sufficient amount of time. There are people, in fact, it's easy to make aspiration, but it's difficult to put that into actions, isn't it? Especially if those of you can hardly persevere all the way to the end through the maintenance of your right mindfulness, then it is going to be difficult. But when I tried it today, when I chanted the mantra for 1,000 times, it doesn't take that long. I mean, at most, it's going to take you about half an hour. There are people who would do it at all times, during work, while even driving, and doing all kinds of things. You can chant mantra. But I think the best would be that if you can chant the mantra following the liturgy, that would be the best. For example, at the very beginning, you should practice the Guru Yoga of Padmasambhava and then chant, for example, 1,000 times, and then practice a session of receiving the siddhi, which is a method of receiving the 4 empowerments, and then you can rededicate the merit. Now, the Guru Yoga of Padmasambhava is included in our liturgy chant book. It is at the very beginning of the Tsok offering of Padmasambhava. You can practice that Guru Yoga and then skip the later part of that Tsok offering, and then you can chant 1,000 times of mantra. In such a way, you can practice the whole liturgy. It is considered as a formal meditation. If you can practice it in a formal meditation session, chant the refuge and generation of bodhicitta, and then Guru Yoga, and then mantra. After that, if you have time, you can chant one praise verse, or chant offering, or the dependent origination mantra. After that, you can practice receiving siddhis, which is this kind of system is included in our practice of the Ningti preliminary practice liturgy. It would be the best for you to chant in such a way, and especially we have such an auspicious dependent origination for us to practice this mantra chanting all together. I think it would be wonderful. Please do not think that it is because we have some obstacles that's happening in the Sherdra or in doodling. That is why you are required to chant the mantra of Padmasambhava. But that is not true. As practitioners, if we were to have obstacles, we can see obstacles at all times. If we can see obstacles as something that is normal to happen in our lifetime, then whatever kinds of obstacles is not going to stop you from practicing. This year is rather very special. We have a very auspicious dependent origination, as I said, because the Tibetan Dromos and Lamas started practicing the Padmasambhava mantra. I know many of you are not too clear about how to practice it and what is the benefit of it and so on and so forth. That is why, by this auspicious dependent origination, I decided to give you the teaching on this particular text that I've translated about over a decade ago. I would encourage you not to only chant 100,000 times of Vajra Sattva mantra this year, rather you should practice this every single year so that you can protect yourself, you can protect your freedom of practice, and then if you can practice in such a way, if you can see it as an annual project or annual homework to finish, that would be really wonderful. It would create favorable conditions for your practice. Let it be staying over here in the Sherdra, or when you're not in the Sherdra, if you can do that every year, that would be really wonderful. In the past, I've requested everyone to practice the wrathful mantra of Padmasambhava or this particular mantra for 100,000 times. I've made that request, and I've encouraged you to do that every year for many years. I hope each and every year, this year included, and you can practice in such a way and you can remember it. It is not easy to study this particular text every single year, but I hope you can remember it. There are practitioners who can remember the teachings, even if the teaching was given only once. So I hope that you can be that kind of practitioner and you can chant the Padmasambhava mantra every single year as I described and as I taught. Especially, it would be even better if you can practice the Vajrasattva mantra along with the entire liturgy in formal meditation. Even if you really can't do it, even if you can't practice in such a complete and a perfect way, at least if you can practice wherever you are and whatever you're doing. In some public spaces over here in the Sherdra, some of the staff members, usually they don't really use a mala. I hope if you have time, you should still use a mala because indeed we're a Sherdra. We are a center to study Buddhism. So even if you're a staff member, you can still hold malas. You're not necessarily a government staff member or anything like that. Rather, you're a staff member over here. You're serving the Sangha. While you're standing, sitting, you should just use a mantra. You should just use the mala to chant the mantras. That being said, you should not go to the other extreme where you would only chant the mantra set but not attending your customers, not working on your post such as the receptionist or the concierge or the servers in the restaurants and so on and so forth. You should not neglect your work. It is that only when you have a little time you should practice with your mala. On top of that, you shouldn't be too concerned about having a post over here, and that is why you should not use it. You're not a CPP member, so a CCP member, you don't need to necessarily stand over there and not chanting mantras at all. Now that we are open to tourists, we can see that all kinds of people would come here. And if we ourselves, the members over here as well as the staff members over here, do not pay close attention to the whole energy in this valley, then it could change. We didn't ask to open Larangar to the tourists. However, it is done. And now there are all kinds of people who would come here as tourists. In this way, the quiet environment of the Sherdra could be disrupted. And if we were to be influenced by such distraction, if we were not to hold our mind with right mindfulness or to protect our mind, then such a beautiful and quiet center would change. In some ways, we can't really stop the changes because now that the whole world is facing a wave of tourism. On the positive side, we can probably liberate many sentient beings or create some positive changes in the sentient beings and make some good connections for them to the Dharma. But on the other, we should not be influenced by them. We should use our malas at all times, and we should chant at least mantras whenever we have spare time.